Cool guys, good to see you. I'm Stefan here, Adrian and John. Thanks for being at Captain's Table, and this month we're talking about additional revenue streams, so really important conversation. But first of all, thanks to JobAdder for putting this all on for us, and we've got some great technology here from Michelle and her team. Thank you very much, JobAdder, for hosting us. And also our other sponsors, we've got A Positive, we've got William Buck, we've got Ayers Group, which is now People 2.0, and Digit Pro down in Melbourne. So thank you all very much for supporting Captain's Table. The great thing about having sponsors along is many of them have been former recruiters, so they see the market from a recruitment perspective and they're interacting with so many recruitment companies out there. So I do encourage you to build relationships with them if you've got some time to be here afterwards. We're going to finish around 12 o'clock, maybe just a little bit after. Hopefully you can stay a bit longer, because a lot of the good stuff happens in the group discussion. I'm not actually going to present today, we're going to workshop this topic, all right? So we're hoping that everyone's going to contribute, but also the things that you really want to know about your strategy and where you're taking your businesses around this topic. So to set the scene for you, most recruitment companies, you know, in Australia, do perm recruitment and then maybe some temp contract or labour hire, or all temp, all labour hire and not much perm. So right away there's just a bit of a lack of diversity in revenue streams, and we saw it in the last downturn. Pure perm recruitment companies suddenly had all their jobs pulled and they were scrabbling around for business. So the idea for this discussion is to talk about what revenues can be generated from additional revenue streams that make sense. Obviously there's 100 ideas of what you could be offering out in the marketplace, but if we take the professional services model, and I'm going to be asking Cameron, who's a director at William Buck and also speaking at next month's Captain's Table, on accounting firms and their professional services model. Accounting firms have a vast array of offerings, but in recruitment we kind of just go, no, we just do recruitment. And it seems a little bit of a waste when you think about it, because you build these long-term client relationships and then you only provide, say, I'll use perm recruitment as the example, only provide perm recruitment and the client goes to someone else for their temp, their contract, for their HR advisory. And even though you've got a great relationship, there's an opportunity for another business to come in there and cut your lunch, so to speak. So we want to talk about that and what works and what doesn't. But Cameron, do you want to tell us a little bit about the journey of William Buck going from pure accounting to other services for us? If you don't mind coming up here for a second.
Yeah, sure.
So that we can get you on camera.
So William Buck many years ago was more of a traditional accounting firm, and we were focused on just helping people with their taxes and their accounting. And we saw an opportunity that we had all these clients, that we were their trusted advisor. They come to us when they've got financial problems and when they've got issues, and there was this opportunity that we could offer all these other services. I mean, there was risks that if people then went and got those services from other providers that were offering the full service, that we could lose that client, because they go, well, I'm buying more services from another firm, I may just stick to them with my accounting and tax. But we found that we were getting cross referrals, because so what we did to start them was we'd plant one person in that particular division. So it might have been, you know, insolvency or a particular type, or wealth management's probably the best example we had. So a lot of our small business clients then said, well, you're helping me with my taxes, then I've got all this money to invest, what can you do? We were then saying, well, go and see a wealth advisor who was a different person, and we were missing out on that opportunity. So it was an opportunity for us to get some revenue, but also then we get cross referrals from each of those there. So wealth's probably been the biggest success story. We've now got about 50 people in that division, where 5 years ago we had 10.
Is that right?
So
it's 5 times.
Strength to strength.
Yeah.
And they probably get most of their, you know, at least 2/3 of their referrals or opportunities through, you know, people like me who have clients at accounting and tax clients that need this service, and so we're their trusted advisor already. So it made sense that they would go or have that introduction. It's also great that you can then grow your business, and you can have potentially younger people coming through, be able to grow as a business. You then got more opportunities for everyone. So
yeah, no, really good. Okay, no, that's given us a good base to start this discussion. While you're up here,
have you got any questions?
Any questions? Please talk to Cameron.
In relation to that, or expanding on it, happy to provide my insights.
Be a bit of a sounding board. Yep. Thank you very much. for that, and also quickly on next month, your thoughts so far on what we're going to cover next month.
Yeah, so next month I think we're going to look at end of financial year and things that businesses should be thinking about to improve their business and actions. The end of financial year is a really good time to review your financials and work out where you're going, what your plans for the next year are, and things that you want to achieve. I think the federal budget, last year's federal budget was pretty boring. There wasn't a lot in there. And my tip would be that there will be some big decisions made in this coming budget. So
with the change of government,
with the change, well, they changed government before, nearly 12 months ago. But I think this will be an opportunity as a new government to come in and stamp their mark on things, and that will probably mean changes to tax laws and things like that. So we'll also update you on stuff that you need to know and whatnot. We're also going to cover a bit about compliance and how we're seeing that a lot of businesses are missing out on some of that compliance. Governments are cracking down. There's more and more ATO audits that we've ever seen before, state revenue audits, and so we can give you some ideas on things that as businesses you can make sure you've got under control and you don't get any surprises.
Very good. All right.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you very much, Cameron. All right, now let's get into it. So who is just mainly permanent? Let's say 80% on the more perm recruitment. Okay, who's around 80% contract temp / labour hire? Okay, who's got a good mix of both, 50-50 roughly? Okay, all right, who provides any additional services outside perm temp contract recruitment? A few of you, very good. Okay, so we're going to get into that. So I think first discussion is for those of you that started with perm and look to diversify into temp and contract, that's the obvious first step, right? Would you agree? Or if you're doing labour hire and temp and contract recruitment, do some perm recruitment. Who wants to share why there are great benefits in doing either of them? Or both of them, rather, together?
Well, we're on the voyage now that Eva's come on board to build a temp desk. And part of the reason is perm people start on zero the first of every month. So it'd be nice to have some annuity revenue. But also I'm getting on a bit, and if I ultimately want to sell the business, it's pretty necessity. It's a necessity to have a temp role.
Yeah, totally. So the two main points there are recurring revenue streams and building business value for eventual exit, which everyone that owns a business has to have some sort of form of succession plan, whether it's to sell the business or hand it on to senior people to run while the owner steps back, whatever it might be. Very, very critical. And if you're going the other way, you've just got temp and contract and labour hire, very good recurring revenue streams. What's the danger if you don't do permanent recruitment? Anyone?
Depends on how linked you are to your client base. If you've got a good spread, it's probably okay. But if a lot of it's being done with one client, it could be problematic, only one revenue stream.
Yeah, no. You've picked up on a really good point that we need to throw in this diversification of revenue streams. I see a lot of recruitment companies with 60 or 70% of their total revenue with one client. Extremely dangerous when we have a downturn. Extremely dangerous if something happens to that company. And we've seen some pretty bad things happen to, let's say, Optus with the data breach, where some of the big American companies that are massively downsizing because they've been massively overstaffed. Client diversification is probably just as important as anything there. So I encourage you to have a look at your client base. But I guess the other factor here is if you're just doing temp and contract, great for recurring revenue streams. But the problem is if another recruitment company is doing their permanent recruitment, is there a danger there that they might build better relationships somehow because they're bringing in senior managers that they're hiring on a perm basis that they have a strong relationship with that you don't have. And then those senior managers become hiring managers, and before you know it, they've negotiated some sort of deal to do all their recruitment, and then you're stuck there with no client at all, and I've seen that happen big time. So I think it's important to have both. What about, though, if you're doing perm recruitment in professional services, is a good one for, say, Jason's company does legal recruitment. What if they don't really do much contract recruitment or temp recruitment? How do you, what do you do if there's not a massive opportunity to do temp in say, professional services? An accounting firm, another good example. How would you position your model to offer contract temp and or labour hire to perm only recruitment businesses?
Before you buy.
Sorry, say again?
Try before you buy.
Try it before you buy.
Yes, you could say, look, obviously we're in a, rather uncertain economic time, and making a hiring decision that could prove to be erroneous could have a negative impact, not just on, obviously the cost of hiring that individual, but the impact on the rest of your team. That hiring a toxic employee can be motivating, but also why don't you bring them on a temp basis for 3 months, for example? Then there's no major.
No, really good.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good strategy. So you've got a permanent assignment, talking to the client, say, hey, we've got a really good contractor that can come in and start working on that project for you immediately, and if they're really good, you can take them on as a permanent team member. Now, in theory, I know you know all that strategy, but in practice, I don't see it implemented as much as it should be. Often more junior consultants are a bit nervous about that conversation. So you as business owners and leaders need to be in there helping support the juniors on that conversation, or ideally be in those conversations yourselves. So ideally I like to have all business leaders freed up to spend 60-70% of their time in the marketplace, learning what's happening, building client relationships, because you as senior business leaders have the ability to be able to build those relationships and have those more intricate conversations that are going to lead to new business than your more junior people, who are often set up for failure if you put them in the deep end with senior people and they're not trained enough, they're not senior enough. So,
point on that.
yes.
On the temp side of the contract, I think you need to have technology and platform set up.
Yeah, good point.
You need that, because when I came on big, I saw how much back end was behind temps. The outsource, you guys, you need that. You can't just deviate, I can do temp now, because you're going to hit roadblocks you never even knew about.
Yeah.
So unless you have that solid base of, if this gets successful, we're ready, rather than, we'll do temp and then bolt it on afterwards and work out how we do it. Because there's so much legislation that's changed. You and I work together. It's a different beast.
It really is. Yeah, just 1 second, Jason, I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
But so John's point, for those of you who didn't hear, you've got to have the infrastructure to diversify, whether it's perm to temp, temp to perm. You've got to have the right infrastructure and processes in place, systems in place, the correct training in place, the legislative requirements, the cash flow. These are all the things that you're alluding to.
My last point was just, you talked about new consultants and not throwing in the mixer. Temp desk can look lucrative and do it up,
Yes.
but unless they know that they've got the tools of trade behind them,
That's
you can't just pass it off stress.
Yeah, no, totally. And what about, before I come back to Jason, what about having a dedicated person to say you're diversifying into temp or contract? What's your view on having a dedicated person doing it versus saying to all your perm consultants, hey, everyone, let's try and get some more contractors in? Any points on that? Sarah? Doesn't work at all. Very rarely it does not work. You have to have someone that's really dedicated to building that. And you're going to get a lot of patch protection from the perm recruiters, but you've got to sell them on the idea, hey, this is better for the whole company, it's better for you, we're going to build new relationships, and the cross-referrals that Cameron was alluding to that happens in the accounting trade will start happening as well. You'll pick up perm roles, and then you'll have this reduction in risk and more diversity.
So we're in the throes of that right now. Eva's come on board to build that temp desk, and Eva's a fantastic recruiter, but I don't want to labour her with any admin and the setup thing. So we've been in touch with Brendan and Joe, and they've put all the ducks in a row for us, and we don't have to think about anything.
Really good. So can you just quickly explain what you're actually doing there, how you do that to help people that, without giving away too much of your, but how do you provide extra support for someone that is diversifying?
Well, I guess this comes down to diversification piece, where A Positive was originally just a finance business, and we're providing finance for the cash flow gap of when a contractor starts, for making payroll to when you receive payment from the client. There are sort of payroll companies out there that we're partnering with, but there was a disconnect between the service of us providing finance and then using another provider to do the payroll. So 2 years ago, led by Darren, we set up a payrolling arm where we basically take on from start with the employee, onboarding the employee, on hiring back to the recruiter, all the way through to funding, onboarding, you name it, offboarding, so that, as Jason said, you can literally build a contract book without having to worry about managing the back office, managing the payroll, managing the financing.
Fantastic.
So it's just like, if I make a placement, the support's there.
It's all set up.
Yeah.
And you provide that consulting service just as part of you're offering, do you?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We talk about all that sort of stuff and
Yeah,
other
great.
areas they can go into. And
It's great.
businesses.
So any of you that are doing pure perm, get it in place now. We've got some storm clouds, right? Brewing in the marketplace. Would anyone debate on that one? There's some things happening in the market. There's a bit of a potential slowdown happening. Anyone disagree? Right?
I'm
Okay.
still bullish, but it's inevitable that
Bullish,
will come
yeah.
at one time.
That's
It's
right.
just when it will come.
It's just when, isn't it? You know, and so it's really good to be doing that. And even in law, like what sort of roles are contract and temp in the legal industry?
Mainly support, because you can't have a lawyer as a contractor on your books.
You can't. Okay. So office support.
Secretaries, paralegals.
Okay. And can you still make a decent margin out of those more junior roles?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a good relationship with your client, for sure.
All right. So you're coming in at a not a, you obviously going to have good margin control when you're doing temp. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely, I think.
Mm.
And I always, as a selling point to my client, you get what you pay for at the end of the day.
Okay.
So if you want monkeys, you pay monkeys, basically. You
Okay.
get that. But if you want a good quality temp candidate who's going to, and in effect, we're always trying to aim for that temp to perm crossover as well. That's the long-term return on investment you've got to think of as well down the track.
Okay, good. And even these companies, they're going to have to use someone to manage their temps anyway, aren't they? So they might as well use a recruitment company that specialises in it, right?
True, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want the headache
No.
of it. They'll rather someone on our books than their books as well.
Okay.
So that's always a good selling point.
All right.
Yeah, and the cross referrals we've found is that your sort of contact list or database list might be different to Jason's,
Completely.
and then potentially you'll be doing contracting jobs into legal firms that Jason's never even
Yep.
got into, and then suddenly
Yep.
they go, oh, do you guys also do perm? Yes, we do, and then you don't have to do the work, but you just pass it on to someone
It's
else. So
already
that's where we've
started.
found
Yep.
internally
Yeah. Okay.
works really well, and it's sort
Yeah.
of everyone then helps everyone.
Mm-hmm. Brennan.
Just going back to the temp to perm thing, I'm not sure if people do this here, but I have seen businesses that give away their temp to perm fee. So, you know, if the temp's been on site for 3 months, they'll only pay 75% of the fee. If they've been on for 6 months, 50% of the fee, 25%. And if they've been on there for a year, there's no fee. I don't agree with that.
And they let them have it for free.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't agree with that.
I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday up in Queensland, and she says once they've been there 3 months, she can't charge a temp to perm. And I pushed back on her, I said, you've got to be friggin' nuts. And she's like, that's the market, that's all the competition do.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. But
Yeah. Wow. No. It's just bad business, isn't it, really? Well, obviously you lose all the money from doing all that work for 3 months of temp margin.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's not worth it. Just-
No, not worth it. Okay, so this is a big topic, this one, right? The getting into contract and temp, and there's a lot more discussion around it, but has anyone got any question marks around diversification into temp contract?
Yeah,
labour
my
hire before we
reservation
move
for
on?
years, sorry to hold the
Yeah.
conversation, was, I don't know where the stat came from, but I always heard you need 8 temps out to make it worth your while with the admin. So the fact that A positive can come in and take that admin away
Yeah.
means we'll probably make margin from temp number 1.
From
So-
temp number one, the good
Yeah,
client.
so
okay.
that will help us,
Yeah.
but it was just getting that critical mass that always turned me off it.
Yeah, okay. All right, and you brought me to another question for you all. So you've got offer support, which is generally the lower level margins, right? But provided you have good margin control, you can still make good money. But there's also the additional benefit of diversification and relationships and being a trusted advisor and all those other things that we talked about. So, but how do you move up the value chain? How do you move into? We've got any technology recruiters here that generally work at a much higher margin? Yeah. You know, how do you move up that value chain?
Yeah, I don't think you move up. You start there, right? I mean, like,
Start
I
there.
don't have a massive, so like a good balance of temporary contract for maybe 85, 15.
So what's your balance?
15% contractors right
15%
now, in terms of,
contract.
like actual profit,
Yep.
and all of them are like, I think, and I know there's a difference between 10 contractors. So a pretty manager makes $1 grand per day, which is really good margin. So
It's pretty much the same, but
and
yeah.
I would never, attempt to make money out of temps or secretaries or admin, because
Yeah.
I know that it's just a volume game that
Yeah, okay.
requires a lot of muscle.
Yeah, okay.
But I would be 100% firm if it were not for people like people to know, you positive now, all these people that you basically just hand this off. And, they cost, but managing to fund those activities, and it's basically hands-off.
So what is your what is your reason for doing contract recruitment?
Look, at the very beginning, I was just following my nose, right? I mean, I had a perm contract client,
Yeah.
and I said, I need a contract. I said,
Yeah.
if you contract it, absolutely I do.
And you said, great, gotta do it.
And I had no idea where to start, from
Mm.
compliance, timesheets, etc.
Mm.
So, you know, you go to these people, Dada, it's just amazing how,
Yeah.
you know, lower the level of awareness you're like this, right?
And you're glad you're doing it now?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And there's
Yeah.
these, you know, these things that ticks
That's it.
off my
That's it.
But I would always go, and I think obviously there was an element of financial assessment saying, is this worth it? And when you look at, you know, a contractor potentially making you $1,000 a week, it's a no-brainer.
It's recurring revenue again, right? Yeah.
But to that point, one of the challenges with any business and starting a business is you get used to doing something that works for you, and there's only so many hours in the day. And then in the past, in other businesses, I've got to expand on a business, and I've got to mortgage the house or do X or do Y or do Z. And then you have people like People 2.0, for example, they can access funds for you, but they can give you the systems behind those funds.
Yeah.
So you don't just free up your time, but you then add an additional revenue stream. And it's as simple as just asking another question with your client, saying, hey, I've got this perm role here, would you like to look at a contractor? Are you doing much contractor work?
Yeah.
They might be doing it, and you just never ask the question.
Yeah.
So it's about giving confidence back to the recruitment firm, so they can go and move from a perm to a mixed bag.
Alex, I'd like to just repeat what you just said there on it's as simple as asking the question. That is something that consultants need to be trained in. Us as business owners need to keep remembering that, to be asking that question, because you never know when it's going to come up or what their future plans are like. And it goes back to the point that I was just covering off with one of my clients this morning, is that in business development, the meetings that you have with clients is so important to be in front of them on a regular basis. You as business leaders, not just your consultants. So you can ask them about what are they doing in the future, what are their plans, what are their projects, and you're not actually selling to them now, but you're finding out what they've got coming up ahead, and you'd be asking them, hey, what roles are you having difficulty filling? What areas of your business are you looking to expand? If I could find a really good candidate in one of the areas of your business, which would it be? And you're having that really good conversation with them so that they say, well, actually, you might be able to help me with this. And that's what you want out of that conversation. So again, a lot of business owners I see bogged down with admin in the office, with team meetings, with all the stuff that goes on for the business side, but not out in the marketplace. And this is where the opportunities happen, to your point, Alex, asking that question. Have you considered having contractors and a more flexible workforce, which we're going to get onto now, instead of waiting for 8 weeks to find the perfect permanent person that may or may not work out. You know, they've got a project need right away. How can you deliver? So, are we ready to work a little bit around additional recruitment services as the next one? Yep. So we've pretty much got temp, perm, contract that are really, really important, and I hope you've all realised that that's a really important aspect of a high-performing recruitment company in terms of business value, in terms of risk mitigation, in terms of diversification, and also in terms of one thing that hasn't come up, if you have staff turnover. If you've got all your eggs in the one perm recruiter basket and that person leaves and you don't have a strong relationship with that particular client, then the business could follow the recruiter that leaves. So that's why recurring revenue streams, temp, contract, and also you having a relationship with your consultants, clients as well is so important. Okay? All good? So we've got additional recruitment services that can be offered. We've covered temp, perm, contract, and labour hire in a roundabout, well, in a broad spectrum. What other recruitment services are typically offered? Some of the recruitment services you guys might offer?
Search.
Say again?
Search.
Search, all right?
Search.
All right, we're going to go through each of these. Executive search. What else?
Would you consider like unbundling? I mean, I don't do it, but unbundle, like
Unbundled recruitment, yep. Do you want to just quickly explain what that is, Solheim?
Potentially just present a long list or a list of screen people, and that's your final output, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like market mapping, I guess. Would that be it?
Market mapping. So that would be, long listing or talent market mapping, yeah.
We used to call it a split service when offering, split service.
So what was that one?
Split service.
Oh,
So
split-
similar
Yeah.
idea,
S-
just doing one part of it and then saying this is the
Okay.
fee you pay.
Yeah, doing one part of the recruitment process, unbundled recruitment, yeah, and then charging accordingly for it. For new clients that are just overwhelmed with all the candidates that are flowing in on their job ad, you can help them reduce it down and then provide part of the service for them as a way of building credibility. That's the other thing. It's a really good way of even if it's not at full fee to start, but building credibility, building relationships, and getting to this trusted advisor status. What else?
Do SOW management, so
Yeah.
you could package up work, find a leader, build the team, do fixed price.
Really good, Thomas. Everyone know what SOW stands for?
Statement of work.
Statement of work, yeah. And Thomas, you want to give a quick definition of SOW?
Yeah, so if I provide an example, so let's say you have a IT consulting firm and they're asked by an organisation to do break fix on their server or something. They'll say, okay, well it's going to cost you X for all of these different line items of work, and it won't matter how many people they do it or how long it will take. So they'll provide that on a fixed price basis.
So fixed price, yeah, and it's usually project based, right?
Yeah.
That would be the definition?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can also call that project services. Yep, similar sort of definition, yeah. So it's a fixed quote to provide a people solution to deliver on this stuff. Now, regular recruiters, why can't you be doing that? It's done in tech all the time. Why not?
Yeah, there's
You know?
also there's plenty of websites where you can actually put that work out to a consultant like Expert 360, which is like a freelancer platform.
Yeah.
And you can say to the customer, say, okay, we'll go out and we'll find the lead consultant, and we will get that piece of work packaged up for you. And you don't have to go out and do your usual search. Just go through Expert 360 or a similar platform, put the piece of work out there. They'll come in, you screen the people, put that work to the customer, and then use that whatever margin you want on top
Add a
of that.
margin to it, yeah.
Yeah.
This is really important.
Plenty of
and-
tools out there to do that.
Yeah, this is what I think the tech recruitment companies are a really good model to follow for those of you that aren't doing this yet. They've been doing it for years and they do it very well. All companies have projects, They might be building a new marketing team. Like you've probably read, and I don't want to embarrass the job out of guys, but they've got new funding in, build a new marketing team. They have, I'm sure they've got great plans to expand, and someone could come in and say, hey, can we help you? Tell us about these projects. What are you doing? What sort of people are you going to need that we're going to have to keep an eye out for you in the future so that you can be freed up to actually implement rather than spend all your time going through resumes and job applications and screening and not getting people that aren't going to work out into your team, and then you have to start all over again in the process, yeah? So it's more a consultative approach, I guess, is my point. You really want to be consultative as far as your clients go, not transactional. And I think this is another sort of delimitation or another way of approaching this topic is that we talked about being a trusted advisor, and you also want to be consultative here, not just a transactional recruiter. And it's something that we've all been guilty of, taking a job order, putting the person in, moving on to the next. We've got to consult.
Is
And
that
see-
because you're dealing with the wrong person in the organisation? Like, it's the same person that you're dealing with, say in HR, giving you that instruction, and maybe it's not the CEO of the business, maybe who
That's it.
then they're helping you. As you said, if you understand the strategy, you can then say to them, well, actually that strategy works, or these are the types of people you should be looking for, rather than, as you said, you just get an instruction to say, find this
That's it.
particular job description,
That's it.
but you don't get to see the whole picture.
You don't.
But I don't see why any business owner wouldn't want a good recruiter that they've already got a good relationship reaching out and saying, let's have a coffee, I want to understand a bit more about your business from your,
I'll tell you why, because HR are protective,
They
they're
are.
acting as the gatekeeper.
So has anyone got examples of where they've been able to get through that
Yeah,
and how they've
it's
been
the
able to
size of the company always, that's what it comes down to. So
The bigger the harder, Jason?
Yeah, look, quite frankly, if they've got HR internal, it becomes probably a factor of 3 times more difficult to do business with them. So if I'm dealing with the managing partner of a small firm, we have a great rapport, we can float people in, we can have chats, blah, blah, blah. The moment there's that gatekeeper, often the time they're feathering their own nests and trying to got some great HR, but a lot of them are just deal destruction units.
John?
There's some recruiters who, I work with a guy who used to work with clients, they used to pick his brain, not about hiring, but about the marketing mix that he was part of and hearing. So it's actually separate consulting fees.
Separate consulting, yeah.
Just for the market knowledge, not where people were moving or
Yeah.
how, but he was deeply entrenched in that space, and he was all like quasi Big Four, but just they valued the thing.
Okay.
So a lot of the large firms, they have internal recruiters, and part of their KPI is to market map or have a certain, who's in the market and so forth like that.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they're terrible people and they can't do it.
Yeah.
If you can offer that unbundled service.
Unbundled service, yeah.
Yeah. Sort of additional
No,
fee.
so
Makes them look
unbundled
good when
service,
you
yeah,
get a
part of the
kickback.
solution at
Yeah.
least. So really, what we're talking about here is we're putting the consulting into recruitment consultant here really, and not just recruiting, but consulting. And I wonder if we flipped it around and consult first and recruit after, that we could provide much better and bigger offering rather than the fill that hard to find role. Yeah. So and
to
that
get
brings,
access to the CEO, could you do more
Yeah.
executive search, which means they're the CEO's
Yeah.
direct reports,
yeah.
which means they're going to be interviewing, and potentially that way you get exposure to that particular CEO that way maybe. I don't know.
Totally. You've got to have exposure to the hiring manager. You've got to Cameron's point before, you cannot be recruiting roles that you haven't got a briefing from the direct hiring manager. It can go wrong in so many ways, as you know. And again, it goes back to you as more senior people being in the marketplace, able to get that meeting and taking the more junior person to that meeting, rather than relying on the more junior person to try and get in front of the line manager. A lot harder. And then it can come unstuck. One quick point, Thomas, and then remind me to go back to Serge.
Yeah, for sure. If you're talking about being a sort of trusted advisor and embedding yourself in the business, a way to differentiate yourself, and certainly what I've seen, is going beyond that. Hey, we need you now to find somebody now because our project is overrun or it's been delayed. If you get ahead of that and you build a strong enough relationship with the project leaders, the solution design or the business analyst, you can really get embedded and say, what is your forward-looking projection like for all of these projects and start dates? We can go and market map all of the contracts or the skills that you might need, identify when their projects are running with other companies, and give you an idea of when the capacity of these skills in the market will be able to meet your demand for your various projects.
Yeah.
And we can start talent pipelining for that in advance, and that could be a service fee that you charge up front to give them an idea of whether their projects can be properly resourced on time. And there are many companies that actually become so much more embedded in workforce planning and resource planning than just reaction recruitment.
I think it's another workforce management and consulting, yeah?
Yep.
If you're in at that level, you're guaranteed to get the recruitment side of it, aren't you? As a trusted advisor. Now, I wanted to come back to really good points, thank you, and I want to bring you back to search. Does anyone do pure executive search? Like, really high level, those incredible $180,000 fees for a $1 million CEO, well, a $600,000 CEO. Anyone do that? At the 30, 40, 50% fee mark? Right. So, most of us are in traditional recruitment, and we go up to maybe $200,000 or $300,000 salaries. Yeah, maybe creep up a bit higher. But there's a lot to be learned on what these guys do. So what they do, and I'll give you some insights because I've studied them a few years ago. I'll just give you a couple of quick snippets, and then I want you to add to it in case I've missed anything. But these guys, a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. It's all around positioning. They will position this amazing package with these big brochures, with this amazing recruitment strategy, and the 10 team members mapping the market for the client. It's all BS. They do normal recruitment just like all of us here do, but they position it and they package it so well, and that's how they can justify those massive fees on $1 million salaries and get paid so much. They only need to make a few placements a year per person, and they've done extremely well. So what I encourage you to do, before I'll come back to your second bit, what I encourage you to do is, if you do know any executive search people, build a relationship with them, work out what they're doing, how they're facing the market, how they do position themselves, and add a lot of that, add some of that expertise into your own business. Overlay their processes into yours. Brendan and Sarah.
So I was just going to say, with the search, they also offer the benefit of DISC profiling and psychometric testing.
Testing and profiling,
Which
value-added
costs-
services.
which costs, I don't know, a couple $100 online.
Nothing,
You
yeah.
know, but if you're charging 33% and you're getting that third up front,
Yeah.
it covers the cost of that.
They add so much extra stuff in there, and so when the client goes, "Oh, you're giving me all that? Yeah, I'll pay you, you know, $100,000 for this role," and the client doesn't quibble. In actual fact, they won't deal with you because you're not charging them enough. They think maybe there's something missing, and that's why they do go to these big guys. In the old days, we used to offer these packages. You remember Chandler McLeod? Some of you that have been around a bit longer, they had brilliant packages of psychometric testing and you know, they'd have a process for long listing, shortlisting, market research, they'd interview client decision makers and all the stakeholders, and they mapped it out really well and they packaged it up. They charged the most of anyone in the market, but they had an extremely successful business
I had a good
through that
experience
packaging.
with a search company in London. I had 2 VP of sales from them,
Yeah.
and they did a couple of things that I quite liked. So number one was they provided this, so it was almost like a digital brochure, but it was like a full analytics. It looked like a software analytics program that basically tracked the market, did the market mapping, what the response rates were to the proposition we were selling. Was it negative, positive sentiment to the seller range, all that kind of stuff. It was pretty impressive. And the second thing they did that I thought was really great was really went into a lot of detail on the individual's performance over time and how the teams have performed and all that kind of stuff. So when I went into the conversation, I could really use that data, but I had to dig a bit deeper. So it was
Okay.
very helpful.
Very helpful, yeah. Okay, good, thank you. Sarah, you're going to...
Yeah, I had somebody who I know quite well who's in that executive level.
Yeah.
Was a recruiter. And he's been approached by a competitor. And so they're talking like $1 million sign-on bonuses and things like this. He said to me the other day, he goes, "I wish I could hire someone like you to do these negotiations for me." He goes, "Recruitment companies need to start getting into this space where they can actually act as the intermediary for the executive of the firm, and the executive pays like a small percentage of their salary to the recruiter to look after a role."
So talent manage senior executives.
Yeah.
With all the experience you've got after interviewing, God, how many people in your career, Sarah? You know, you understand the process, the negotiation,
Yeah.
talent management. So that's a different kettle of fish. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but are we, in the old days, I don't know whether it's been updated yet, but are we allowed to charge a recruitment fee to both client and candidate now, or still not?
One.
Does anyone know?
It's only one.
Only one fee?
So you can either charge the candidate or client. So career coaching.
So what legislation covers that, or is that just something that is an unspoken rule?
I think it's an unspoken rule.
I think so.
It's actually a rule.
There used to be the Employment Agents Act in New South Wales that barred you charging candidates, but I think it's been repealed.
Really, there was definitely a law in the UK that you
Still
can't
there.
charge.
No, right. I don't think there's a law, is where I'm coming from, in Australia that says you can't. Obviously, there's a conflict of interest here if you do it wrongly. But why not provide, is exactly what Sarah's talking about.
So
You know?
this particular person, he wasn't being represented by an agency. A competitor came to him direct and
Okay.
said, "We really want you to come over and head up this business. We'll pay you $1 million sign-on bonus, and this is your salary that we're looking at." And he was like, "Oh, I don't know if it's worth it, blah, blah, blah."
For no one
And
to
then-
talk to, right?
It's
Yeah,
almost like a
but-
sports agent.
Yeah, like an agent,
Like
yeah.
a talent agent.
I think it's a
Could he
brilliant
then
idea.
engage me under the contract, saying, "Can you look after all this for me?"
Brilliant idea. Really good.
So any example of who pay for that service?
The executive.
The individual.
The individual, so it's more flipping it over.
Yeah.
Where we're representing the individuals as if like they're an actor.
Yeah. I love it.
And fires agent, well, he's in the property sector and he said they do it all the time in large commercial deals. It's you know, you just get brought in as the intermediary and you get paid a fee.
What else is so good about that idea? What happens when you've helped that person into their new role?
CEO is your.
The CEO of your newest, biggest client, right? I love that. I mean, imagine just having 5 of them. What could happen in your business? And you provide all their recruitment services and other stuff as well. And we've got about another 15 or 20
Here's an
minutes.
idea. If you're at that level,
Yeah.
you've got deep enough to say, okay, let's say you say, okay, give us an idea of what you need for the future, and you could hire in a sort of HR assessment centre consultant and run an assessment centre and just hire them all in one block at a massive discount.
Yep. So we've got HR consulting, which is a whole different topic, and I want to come back to that. But you're spot on.
I placed like 16 candidates in one. This is way back in the day from one assessment centre.
From one assessment centre.
We had 50 people come and I placed 16 within a week.
Yeah. Okay. So taking a few assessment centres, so we're capturing a lot of these ideas. So going back to diversification of revenue streams, profitability and margins. One thing we didn't quite cover was moving up the value chain. Say you are an office support recruiter, or you are recruiting in that market in low margin. You could be using some of these strategies to move up the value chain, bring in a more senior recruiter to handle bigger roles, and be very focused on perm roles of managers. And I always like focusing on, as much as having a recruitment business that focuses on hiring of managers, because those managers become clients, to what we were talking about before. Yeah, so trying to get managers in your recruitment mix, because they'll be so happy that you've helped them find a job that obviously you're going to be a front runner to handle the hiring of their teams. So I thought that was just one thing that we might have missed through the diversification strategy here. All right, now, so we've got statements of work. There's also, this is a whole different topic, and we covered it in a captain's table a couple of years ago, but RPOs, recruitment process outsourcing. Any of you do that? Yeah, okay. Quick definition for everyone.
Recruitment process outsourcing.
Yeah. How you do? I mean, what you do, what it is. Now, what it is, I guess.
Oh, so we do total talent solutions.
Yeah.
That's everything from talent transformation to consulting to advisory, and one of our pieces is talent intelligence, so using data and market to help educate the client on current trends.
Okay, all right. So a lot of what we're talking about is what you're already doing, yeah? Was there anything that we've missed in painting this picture that you think might be useful, that you thought,
Well, it's how many times you can cut up the word consulting, right?
Yeah.
It looks very different to a lot of different clients. There isn't really a one size fits all.
No.
So, we've done consulting into Atlassian for the last 5 years. What REA need
What's your company?
is Preactor.
Preactor, yeah.
It's obviously like a completely different thing. So that consulting piece is just about how much you want to cut that up and how you want to specialise in that and really own that space.
You've got like on-site where you just give one of your recruiters them exclusively and charge them a fee for that.
No, okay, good. No, really good. All right, so before even diversifying into HR services, there's a lot that you can all do on basic recruitment, right? And to move up the value chain, to make sure you're covering the spectrum, but it all goes down to the relationship, I think. That you've got a client that you're providing as much as you possibly can to the clients to trust in your ability to deliver. What else can you deliver to your clients because they know you, trust you, and that you're good at and that you can deliver on, I guess, is the statement here.
So I've been working with a couple of recruiters that do a lot of startup recruitment.
Startup.
So they work with a lot of startups to help
Startups,
them grow their team when they get VC backed and so forth like that. These guys have grown their recruitment businesses quite successfully, the Nudge Group and so forth. So what they end up doing is doing strategy days with the senior executive team. So
They put on strategy days,
strategy days. So like, where do you want to be in your business? Where are you going to grow? And all they do is they just run it. So they basically got the platform from another strategy expert, and they just go in there and as a trusted advisor, they can run there, and then they obviously know where the growth's going to be. So then they start filling CVs.
Do they charge for them?
Yeah, they charge for it.
And they charge for it?
Yeah, they charge.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Good
All
point
right.
there, Bren. We've got some, similar to that, we've got some customers that actually target PE firms and VC firms and say, we'll help. We'll give you the best deal for all of the companies in your portfolio to help them scale. And we've got some of them that come to us because they're trying to identify skills in other countries where they can get the tech skills, but identify labour cost arbitrage opportunities like Philippines, India, wherever it may be, rather than build a team in San Francisco or London or here where it's really expensive, right? So if you're a PE from a VC firm, that's a good option if you want to avoid what's happened recently.
No, for sure. And look, I think the other point here is that specialisation is really important. If you're going to have credibility in an industry, you need to have some specialist knowledge, and you need to be doing your research, and you need to really understand the markets that if you want to consult in, that you understand, and that market. To be able to run a strategy workshop, you've got to really know your sector, whether it's startup companies or whether it's technology or whatever it is. You've got to know your market and know your sector. And I want to just quickly touch on RPO. As I said, another huge topic. And we've had specialist speakers come in and speak about this, and how even small recruitment companies can put together recruitment projects, and they might put a recruiter on site, for example, and be hiring for a project. They might go and present the client with a total package offering. Say, look, we're going to handle all your recruitment for every single thing. If we don't have the expertise, we're going to we're going to partner with other recruitment companies. And at the smaller scale, you might look at NPA members, for example, or do some research on who are the other good players that are playing in spaces that you don't play in, so that you can come in with a joint package to solve a growing company's recruitment requirements. So that's another big one, a big topic, of course, but something to look into as part of the mix that's around recruitment and not other services, which we want to get to in the last few minutes of our conversation. So I've seen recruitment companies offer good HR consulting services. Do you think you can offer them yourselves or bring in an HR specialist to provide that service? Which? Bring someone in, totally. If you're going to offer additional services, get a specialist, just like temp and contract recruitment, if you're trying to expand that out. Get someone that's done it before, that's learnt the lessons, that has made the mistakes, that has credibility in the marketplace. So I've seen some good recruitment companies provide HR consulting services, and it's led to a lot of opportunities in traditional recruitment as well. It could be a really good one. I've seen a lot get burned as well. So you've got to make sure that person not only is technically good, but they also have business development skills. So I've seen a lot of HR specialists fail in working in recruitment companies because they haven't been able to bring on the new business. They're technically really good, but haven't been able to bring in the business. So, other HR consulting services, anyone doing any other stuff that's kind of working? And don't worry about giving away competitive information. The market is absolutely massive. Recruitment companies have only got what percentage of the total recruitment market? Anyone?
I'd say 20.
Yeah, it's about 30%. Recruitment companies or agencies only account for 30% of all recruitment. So your biggest competitor is not anyone in the recruitment industry. It's companies recruiting themselves and not trusting us enough to recruit for them and to outsource recruitment. They think they can do it faster and cheaper, but we know for a fact they can't, and we've seen so many horror stories. Most recent one I heard, one of the big 4 accounting firms bringing in agency recruiters, paying them $200,000 to come in, luring them away from this room and saying, right, give you $200,000 to come in and recruit internally for us, big 4 accounting firm, and started on the first day. We've got 44 roles for you to work on. So 44 roles, 44 hiring managers. It's been ending in absolute disaster. They've got massive turnover in their recruitment teams, even though they're paying such big money.
Unlike agency, you have to work every role.
Well, that's right. Well,
You can't turn roles away if
That's
you're
it.
not interested in it.
Well, yeah.
You turn.
So anyway, we digress. So, any other services that we've missed that you think are really important? Any other points that you want to raise with the group? Because the collective knowledge of the group is really important here, and that's what we're trying to brainstorm and share. Anything that you wanted to get out of this session that we haven't covered, please? Migration services?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, sponsoring. I've heard sponsoring starting up again, yeah? Yeah? Do you use an agent or do some of the consulting yourselves? Do you partner with migration consultants? How would you do it?
We've got in-house, we've got in-house capabilities on
Have
that
you?
as well.
Yeah, in-house,
but,
yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of agents. that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can speak to.
Yeah. So,
we partner with Fred Malloy from Connecting, who's a recruiter and a migration agent.
okay, good. All right, yeah. So partner on that. I mean, it's obvious, a lot of our best skilled workers, when we were candidate short and our borders were open, came from overseas. All right, so migration services and consulting, yeah. But partnering. Yeah, we haven't talked about partnering, but I just want to put that up here. Instead of offering it, the other option is, I mean, you guys provide a lot of services over here as far as, we've got a very sophisticated recruitment offering here, but if you don't have the capability, then how would you work partnerships with other companies that do have that capability?
It's about being a trusted advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, I've always, so my background was in the HR consulting arm of it.
Okay.
I had the recruiter and I had the accountant.
Yeah.
And it was a great partnership because the accountant will turn around and do what an accountant does. It says you need to grow, you need to find somebody, you need a new financial controller in the business. They go to the recruiter, give them a job order, the recruiter give me a call and say, hey, we need to find these type of people. Can you help us with, what's a good rate to pay, what's a legally compliant contract for that person, and that would always evolve in and out of different roles and industries. The other interesting bit would be, when you're a small business especially, and you're having a problem with a staff member, you're going to go to your accountant, your business doctor, and you're going to say, hey, I'm paying this guy $140,000 a year, and he's producing me zero. Okay, how do I move him on and how do I do it right? So straight away the accountant calls me and goes, okay, we have a problem here, we need some HR consulting advice on how to manage this person out of the business.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need the role.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the recruiter comes back in. So this relationship, we've been managing for about 10 years, taking across multiple businesses. We catch up every quarter, we have a laugh, and every second week we get a referral here and there.
Yeah, okay.
So it's about being that trusted advisor, and the clients know, hey, I spoke to Pat, Pat's introduced me to Deepa, Deepa's introduced me to Alex. Then when there's an update in the consultancy side of it, let's say the Fair Work Act's changing, I'll inform them. But then Pat might be the first to turn around and say, hey guys, changes in the ATO. So you get this little unit of people with different skill sets that work together and service clients very, very well. Very similar to builders and real estate agents.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
most real estate agents will have a relationship with the builder and then a couple of key trades. And that way they can provide a total package.
Yeah, but I think that's a really good comparison as well to look at how real estate agents do it. They have this massive array of extra other parties and contractors that they can refer you to. We don't really do that particularly well in recruitment. Yeah. Right, and network amongst yourselves as well, which I think that's really important. For example, I've got a client that wants to do an office fit-out renovation, and the job's too small for any of the big guys. They go, nah, too small for us. We only work at the $200,000 and above to make it worth us getting out of bed and coming over into the city and doing it for you. It'd be great if that person had a network of yours that said, hey, I know someone that can do that for you. Same thing. And we're not even talking about necessarily referral fees for revenue generation. We're talking about reciprocal business will come your way if you give and receive, yeah? The law of reciprocity.
20% of our work would be from other recruiters.
20% of your work is from other recruiters. Yeah. Isn't that good? Yeah.
On there, I say, not to take away from today's topic, is brilliant, but
Yeah.
sometimes recruiters and owners get a bit panicky if the revenue isn't coming through that, but we've got to diversify.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're only 30% of the hiring spend.
Yeah.
Right, or the recruiter. There is a lot in doing the basics well, and lots of them,
Yeah.
and then finding out where your level is, and then are we stable to tap on the extras,
Yeah.
or are we kind of
Yeah.
a bit in? Because that actually sets off more waves.
Yeah. Look, I think you've hit on something really good then, and that is, before you do diversify, are you really maximising your current opportunities?
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm hearing from you as well. Are you working with the best clients, the best candidates in the best sectors and the best margins, the best, get that all right first before you do spread too wide and lose your focus, which is the big downside of diversification. All right, we've got a few people that have already said to me that they've got to go on the hour because they've got other meetings. What we'll do is we will finish up here, but please stay around for some, have a chat to everyone, compare some notes. I mean, it's a big topic as you saw, and there's so much more that we could have covered. But to do that, we're getting the Melbourne session recorded. There's 30 people down in Melbourne exactly right now doing the same session. So I'm going to send out, they're not going to be very high quality recordings, but I always say listen to them in the car, push play and listen to them when you're driving, and you'll get the gist of what's going on. So I'm going to share with you Melbourne and or Brisbane if we can get something useful, because they'll have a completely different perspective on this topic. So anyway, I hope it gave you a really good tasting and a bit of motivation. Now's the time with some economic uncertainty to really reduce the risk of your businesses and build some diversification and really maximise the opportunities you have right now. So thank you all very much for obviously being here, and thank you to our supporters and JobAdder for having us here, and look forward to seeing you next month down at William Buck's offices. All right, so not here, down at William Buck's offices. Some of you might be using the tram for the first time, and it is quite a pleasant experience. But yeah, just head down to Goldwyn Street. Yeah. Thank you all very much. Please hang around and have a chat. Thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.